Joining us to discuss the impact of sand dredging and poor waste disposal is an environment advocate and co-founder of Rethinking Cities, Mr. Dredging. A pleasure having you with us on the News at 10.
Thank you, Melinda. Thank you for having me.
Now, there seems to be a constant abuse of the Lagos and Ogun environment, refuse dumping on the one hand and sand dredging activities on the other. With massive flooding threat on coastal communities, what can be done to help communities survive the impact?
Okay, so two very interesting topics that you have there, waste management and sand dredging in relations to flooding. Interestingly, you had in your report the Lagos State government launching some new trucks. It is very, very important that we begin to look at effective waste management in particularly poor and informal communities in a state like Lagos and Ogun State. Effective in the sense that, okay, do we have enough machineries and do we have a very effective system in place whereby waste can actually be moved away from these communities? You see some of those trucks, very, very big. They are not accessible to, they don't have access to these poor and informal communities that we are talking about. So what is the local solution? How do you help communities manage their waste? We have a state like Lagos whereby informal cart pushers have been banned for a very long time. And one very effective way for us to have been able to evacuate waste from those environments is enabling informal workers to work and incorporate them into the waste management system of the state.
So you think the cart putter shouldn't have been done away with?
Yeah, because if you look at those trucks, how many of them can access these communities that we are talking about? And we now have the issues of, we are saying that waste is going into the canals. So when the people don't see the PSP operators, what happens? In as much as we don't encourage people to be violators of the law, but we have to look at something that is more effective. And what is the local solution? How have people been managing? So can there be an incorporation between PSP operators and the informal waste pickers in this environment, in these communities? Are the things that we need to begin to explore. How can we begin to start looking at waste separation even on the community level and these informal communities that we have? So that's one thing that we've been advocating for. If in a situation whereby you can incorporate these people into the system. And talking about dredging and these communities that we have presently, dredging activities, like you saw in your news report, has very adverse effect on the people, their economy, their lifestyle, water supply. For those fishing communities, it affects their fishing system. So dredging has been a big problem in the city of Lagos that we need to begin to check. Their dredging activities have not been regulated in any way. What we've been doing is we're dredging and we're using it to build housing.
Well, if I may, Mr. Akínpẹ̀lú, in some quarters, sand dredging has been hailed as an important step in curbing flooding.
Yeah, you could use dredging to curb flooding, but it's not always the most effective way. If you're using it to combat flooding, yes, it's very, very possible, but is not the only way. You could also have other systems. You could have structures, wetland protection is another way. That's one thing that we're also doing. We're also even dredging from wetlands in a city like Lagos. So take, for instance, we're not protecting our ecosystem. So dredging has its own effect on the ecosystem of the water that you have. You're changing the entire course of nature. So you are polluting. In some cases, when the dredging is poorly done, bad engineering, you have instances of water pollution. So you have in these areas, in these communities where you have these dredging activities taking place, the people cannot find good water to drink.
What about the issue of illegal mining? Can miners really be made to do their jobs responsibly?
Yes, we can. Activities have to be regulated. Activities have to be checked. But do you have the government agency empowered, or do they have enough structure or the manpower to actually monitor these activities? Are some of the things that we are asking. So, but can you set up a system whereby people can check and begin to report and begin to say, okay, hey, this is what is going on here. Where should things happen and where should they not happen? Do we have a portal? Do you have a system whereby people can see what is going on in their environment and begin to report and say, okay, hey, this is happening in our environment. This shouldn't be. So things like development plans of the city should be made public, and we should be able to know what is happening. So when there's a development going on, there's a sand filling, there's a dredging, you should be able to check and be able to confirm, okay, should this be taking place here? Is this place approved for this? Where are the wetlands that need to be protected? And you have a situation whereby agencies, government agencies are doing things in variance. So one agency is trying to protect the land, another agency is giving it out for housing. So there's a big problem here because you want to meet a particular need, particularly in terms of housing. We're having dredging and sand filling going on, but where are we taking the sand to? Who are we building for? So I would say Lagos is sitting on a sinking sand if these activities are not checked.
Now, finally and very quickly too, at the level that we are now, is there any sign that we can just quickly do something? Because when the floods come, the waters cover everywhere. So what do you think quickly now?
Yeah, quickly, of course, one big challenge that we have in Lagos is the drainage canal, the primary, secondary. Of course, there are some efforts that are being made to work on the drainage canals. But when you talk about the coastal communities, it is a big problem. Nothing preventive is being done, and they are the most hit. So you talk about communities within Lagos and Ogun State. You're talking about Ikorodu axis, Jegunle Ikorodu, and all of that, including the release of water from the dam. So there's all these preventive measures of building canals, levelers, and all of that, ponds, to prevent this is not happening, particularly in those areas. And we need to begin to look at that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Adeji Akinpelu.
Thank you.
Pleasure sharing your thoughts with us on the News at 10.